But I want to quickly move on to our next two, and we're going to give out two back-to-back set of data coming in. One with the question on what do people of Bihar feel or gauge in terms of the performance of their state government. Let's take you through those figures. Very much satisfied. The current percentage of that stands at 34.3%. It hasn't really, it's actually improved from February if you look at that marker. Satisfied to some extent, practically remains the same. Not at all satisfied is nothing really much seemed to have changed on that account. So net, you have same number of people who are satisfied and practically exactly the same number of people who are dissatisfied. Can't say remains practically the same. Satisfied to some extent is an important figure that you might want to look at in this particular data chart. Let's move on to our second set of questions that are coming in. Performance of the Chief Minister in Bihar. So this is important. Performance of the Chief Minister will be Nitish Kumar's performance. From February to May, if you look at that marker, there's actually been a 2.1% increase there. Satisfied to some extent, again from 27.1 to 25.4%. Not a big jump, not at all satisfied. Remains just about the same. 39.3% to 39.8%. Once again, I want to cut across to us, or let's bring in the other set of data, performance of opposition in Bihar. So we've given you how people perceive the performance of the state government. We've told you what Bihar people perceive the performance of the Chief Minister. Now let's get on to the performance of the opposition. Very much satisfied. February 35.1%. Now that's a sizable jump there. It's 42.4% in May. Let's look at the not at all satisfied, 30.5%, 30.5%, and then 30.1%. So there's not much change in that. Satisfied to some extent, 25.1% was in February. Now that has come down to 17.4%. Can't say remains practically the same, which is 9.3%. And now through the course to May, it's come to 10.1%. I want to cut across to our experts again. Amitabh Tiwari, how would you analyze this set of three questions and what the respondents polled?
If you see the question on satisfaction with the government performance, it's a tie. I mean, yes and no is a tie, correct? It reminds us of the polarized or the very competitive election we had in 2020, wherein the vote shares of both Mahagathbandhan and NDA were almost tied. So this somewhat or satisfied to some extent, this 29% people actually are going to decide who will form the next government, because both sides are very much polarized and sort of fixed vote banks. This 29% is going to decide. The same trend continues when you move to the performance of the Chief Minister. But here, if you see, not at all satisfied is higher than very much satisfied, which indicates or which corroborates with the weakening of Nitish Kumar's position and his weakening from 37-38% in 2020 to now 18-19%. So there, the performance of the Chief Minister perhaps is lower than the performance of the state government. So you can say that the BJP ministers or the alliance ministers are contributing to the satisfaction. And that is why we have more leaders from the NDA, Chirag Paswan or Samrat Chaudhary, also figuring in the top CM race. Now, when you go to the performance of the opposition, now we see that it has risen by about 7% in the past 3-4 months. So we see people, around 7% people moving from satisfied to some extent to very much satisfied by the performance of the opposition. Whereas the not at all satisfied is again fixed at 30%. Right. Again, perhaps corroborating with the performance of the Chief Minister and the leaders combined, which is at 35%.
Right.
So this indicates that but these are very contradictory trends in that sense. Tejasvi Yadav's rating is declining, though marginally for this period, but the rating or the satisfaction with the opposition is actually increasing by 7%.
And that's quite a fair bit of increase. But, Yashwant Deshmukh, before I go, to Dr. Manisha Priyam, I wouldn't read the data so badly where the government is concerned. If 29.4%, if you're even keel on very satisfied and not satisfied, and you stand at 29.4% to satisfied to some extent, would look like a state which is not really looking at change. Because if you're somewhat satisfied, then you're satisfied.
Well, yes and no. As Amitabh just mentioned, I mean, this is something which can go either way. And also on the opposition ratings going up, I have my assumption that probably a lot of people who are supporting Prashant also consider him as an opposition leader at this point of time. You know, I
Right.
mean, he is to be counted not in the NDA bloc, but actually in the opposition bloc, even though he is not part of the Mahagathbandhan. That's fine, but as a standalone leader. What is interesting for me to observe in this entire thing, Preeti, is that chief minister's unpopularity is not that thing, but I am sensing a fatigue of sort with the chief minister, and surprisingly, I am also sensing that if BJP would have gone all alone, they might have actually have pulled it off, but they know very well that they cannot take the risk of Nitish going away and back to the Mahagathbandhan, and that is where the arithmetic is going to take over. But yeah, I mean, whatever the numbers positively you are looking at it, it is coming from the BJP's quota.
All right. Okay. Dr. Manisha Prem, how do you look at it? Because yes, there is a contradiction. Very much satisfied with the opposition. Goes from 35.1% in February all the way to 42.4% in May. So, and that's quite a significant jump. But when you look at the performance of the state government, it's even keel and mostly 30% satisfied to some extent.
So I think the first slide is the most important slide, not the one on the opposition. Remember, in Bihar, it's the ruling combination that is being tested since 2005-6, when power slipped out of the hands of Lalu Prasad Yadav and whatever combined he may have led at that point of time. That power has remained with Nitish Kumar and whatever combination he's led, in fact, including the Pied Piper of Hamelin having charmed the two sons of Lalu into his own fold. So really, I would say that the first row that you have is the committed voter of Nitish Kumar saying very much satisfied. Okay, so that number, in fact, the buoyancy of it somewhat remaining within the 34% range, not even touching the 35. Now, this tells you one thing, that there is a committed Nitish vote, and which is the reason why that the Prime Minister, despite the BJP Karyakarta, saying that we've been hemmed in by Nitish Kumar, not been allowed to perform, etc. The Prime Minister safely says, put Nitish in front. You've seen many gaffes, including in the recent visit of the Prime Minister, in the performative aspects of the stage that he shares with Nitish Kumar, but he is keeping quiet because he knows where it lies. Now, the second one, somewhat satisfied to some extent, is largely the BJP saying it. It cannot say satisfied with Nitish Kumar. It can say it in private, but not publicly. Now, as far as Prashant Kishore is concerned, Prashant Kishore is a critic of row number one. Prashant Kishore does not attack the BJP. He attacks the Bihari leadership, which is Nitish Kumar. He attacks Tejaswi. And certainly, it's not the Prime Minister or Amit Shah, etc., who's up in the line there. So I would say Prashant Kishore's views are not represented in the middle column. The middle column is by and large a BJP voter saying this.
Okay.
But the third part also tells you that whether Nitish Kumar built roads beginning from Bihar to the moon, that last row will never say they are satisfied. So it's actually a committed voter of the RJD, and it will remain there.
Right.
What
so you read the numbers positively for the government?
Yes. No, it's positively for the BJP and NDA alliance.
That's what I'm saying. The alliance, the current incumbent government, which is the alliance.
For the elections, positive. The opposition one is a little tricky, and that I would explain at another round if you have questions.